Is that recording mode?
Yeah.
All right.
All right. So my first question to you about Jackie Robinson is, just tell me what you know about him. Like, what are the basics of you know about Jackie Robinson?
He was a colored fellow.
You're not supposed to talk. You'll start all over again now.
No, it's all right.
It's all
He
right.
was the first Negro, or black man, we'll say black man, to play in the Major Leagues. Let's ask him that again. What I know about Jack, he's the first African American to play in the Major Leagues. His first game was April 15th, 1947.
Okay.
Played for the Brooklyn Dodgers,
All right.
the team that's since moved to Los Angeles, California. And he was a great athlete. He went to college at UCLA.
Okay.
He ran track. He played football, and he was a good baseball player. So he signed with the Montreal Royals, they were called.
Okay.
It was a AAA team.
Okay. Yeah.
AAA. And from there, he was talked to by the managing, or the owner of the Brooklyn Dodgers. His name was Branch Rickey.
Okay.
And Branch Rickey talked to Robinson about coming in and playing for him in Brooklyn. But he said, you can't show your temper because you're going to get treated badly.
Yeah.
Right. And if you think about the days when in the 40s, black people in the United States were treated pretty bad.
Yeah, really bad.
There were water fountains that, for black people, or colored they called them. There were bathrooms for colored, church pews for blacks. Couldn't ride in the front of the bus, had to ride in the back. So he was going to get teased. He was going to get treated very poorly. So he said to him, it's essential that we hired you to play for us, but you've got to realize that people are going to say racial things to you and make it very difficult for you. And he said, Robinson said, you mean I can't fight back? And in Branford he said, you've got to have the courage to not fight back. In other words, it took more courage to not fight back than to fight back.
Okay.
So his first game was in April for the Dodgers, and he, from then on, he played pretty well. He could steal bases mainly. But I think his first year he batted .299 or something.
So he was known for stealing bases and all
He
that.
was very fast. He was a track athlete. He was very fast. A running back in football.
Okay.
And he stole bases, and he could hit pretty well too. Batted .299, I think, his first year. In fact, he received the Most Valuable Player award for the American League, for the National League,
Okay.
in his first year playing. But he got in a lot of trouble with some of the other players.
Okay.
Even the players on his own team didn't like him.
Oh yeah.
And the manager of that team was Leo DeRocher. Leo DeRocher was the manager. And Leo said, I had my manager on say he plays, and he's going to make all of us a lot of money. Now, if you guys don't need money, then quit.
Yeah.
I'll kick you off the team. So that's how bad the attitude was toward black people in the 40s. So he won Most Valuable Player. And the thing I remember when I was growing up was that in 1948, I think it was, we had a player from Louisville, where I grew up in Louisville, Kentucky.
Okay.
His name was Pee Wee Reese, and he was a famous baseball player. He played shortstop for the Brooklyn Dodgers.
Okay.
He was #1. His uniform was #1. They were playing in Cincinnati, Ohio, Cincinnati Reds.
Okay.
And Reese went over, and the fans were booing, calling racial slurs to Robinson. And the fans went over, or Pee Reese went over to him and put his arm around him to show support for him. And it was such a famous move that they made a statue of that. So Robinson had a lot of stuff to deal with. The team, I think, that gave him the worst problems was St. Louis. The St. Louis Cardinals had a lot of racially
Yeah.
people who were prejudiced. And when they'd slide into him, stealing base, they try to spike him. They call him the N-word and all kinds of things.
Yeah, like did the umpires like try calling him out on purpose?
They
too?
probably did. I don't remember much about that, but I remember him stealing home. In the old days, he used to steal home.
Oh.
That's how fast he could steal home. Because the pitchers sometimes would wind up with a run on third because they didn't think th'd steal. When you're a pitcher,
Yeah.
you hold the guy with the runner on base by checking it and looking over there, you go for the stretch position,
Yeah.
you know that. And, but the pitchers, when you're in third base, you go and wind up because they never thought of it by being fast enough to beat the throw. Well, he was in the World Series, I think. They were playing the Yankees. There was a catcher named Yogi Berra.
Yeah.
And Berra thought he had him out. And I remember that on television, black and white TV in those days. Robinson slid in, and Berra thought he had him. Umpire called him safe. And Berra just jumped up there, furious. But if he had him out, but
Yeah.
that's one thing I remember about the old stories of Robinson. He played until about 1956, I think. He played 9 years in the major leagues.
So was the Dodgers the only team?
All of the Dodgers didn't play with anybody else.
Okay.
And they moved to Los Angeles in 1958, I think.
Okay.
Became Los Angeles Dodgers. But the thing you have to remember about Jackie Robinson was he had such strong character that he could take all that verbal abuse and not fight back.
Yeah.
And nowadays you wouldn't think of anybody behaving that way. It's,
Yeah.
It was really sad to see all that he went through. But he was a great player, and he always be remembered as that. A good man as well. You know, one guy playing for St. Louis, spiking, took 7 stitches. He had to take 7 stitches in his ankle. You know, they used to sharpen their spikes
Oh, yeah.
and make them more vicious. In those days, they'd do anything you could. So that's kind of about my memories of Robinson.
Okay.
But anything else?
Yeah, you answered its question, what was he known for? He's known for stealing on the base paths. Was
Yeah.
there any famous things he did outside of baseball that you know of?
I can't remember that too much,
Okay,
what he did.
all right.
What did your family think about it at the time? Like, was your family and the people you knew, were they like all for it for baseball
Most people
reason?
were
Or?
pretty much for it. I mean, my mother always raised me to not feel that black people were bad.
Because I know you grew up in Kentucky,
I grew
which
up in
is
Kentucky, which is,
right in the heart
probably
of
still.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, some of the South is still have those attitudes. It's changed a lot, but still, you know, it's a different part of the country where, but he was so good, he was such a good player that I don't think people, and he was so cool about it all. He was lightning fast. He'd dance off first base and go, you know, they tried to throw him out, but they
Yeah.
couldn't.
What do you think made Ranch Ricky want to call him up? Because he thought he was a good player and he'd help out the team.
Branch Rickey, I think, knew it was coming. Maybe, I think he knew this, because there was another player, I can't remember his name, who went to the American League the next year for the Cleveland Indians.
Okay.
And Branch Rickey, I think, knew the black man was gonna come play. He knew they were great athletes. And there were 2 other players, one guy named Josh Gibson, and some other player was really good. But he knew that Robinson had the personality and the character not to fight back. So people accepted him.
Okay.
And after a while, when these teams would jeer him and tease him, the other players started being on his side, you know. So I think that Ricky knew that he'd help him win, and he wanted to win the World Series with him, you know.
Yeah.
That might have been a selfish reason too. It brought more people to the games. In fact, the first game he played, and I think 14,000 or so black Americans came to the game.
Okay.
That was unheard of. Because in those days, it was just the Negro Leagues.
Yeah.
The Negro Leagues were where the black could play.
So did some people saw him as a hero, but then other people saw him as they hated
They
him.
hated, yeah, depends on your, you know, your feelings about racial
Yeah.
minorities and stuff.
So he was good in the Negro Leagues, like
He only played there a very short time. Played for the Kansas City Monarchs,
Okay.
KC Monarchs. And he played there only for a short while. And then he went from there to the Montreal Royals. But, the Negro Leagues, he was pretty good, of course.
Was he in the military? I heard he was in the military.
He was in the military. He joined the Army after Pearl Harbor.
Okay.
When the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, he joined the military, and I forget what he did in the military, but he started out, I think he was based in maybe Texas somewhere.
Okay.
But he stayed in there, and he eventually became a coach, a baseball coach for the military teams before he was discharged.
All right.
And so, trying to think what else. He died very young. He was only,
How did he die? Do you know how he
I
died?
don't know what he died of. I think maybe it was a heart attack.
A heart attack?
I'm not real sure. But you could probably look it up.
Yeah.
But he died at night. He died, and he was 53 years old when he died.
That is pretty young.
Pretty young, yeah. His wife's still living.
Yeah, like when he goes up to the bat too, one pitcher's like purposely trying to hit him too.
Oh yeah, they hit him probably through Eddie. He didn't get upset. Amazing.
Wow, that's
The man had the
remarkable.
control to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I assume he would like live like where like white people wouldn't live either. Like he tried staying away from the crowd and publicity.
Yeah, well, you know, I forgot to mention that, but in those days, if a black player was on the major league team and they traveled to another city, they could not stay in the same hotel as the white players. They had to stay in cheaper motels and hotels.
Okay.
They couldn't eat in the same restaurants. They weren't serving.
Wow.
They had to go find places where they could eat. It was really bad. Well, when you think about it,
Yeah.
how cruel that is.
Yeah, that is.
You know? So he had a tough time. So people admire him for what he, and they have a Jackie Robinson Day. The number 42 was retired. No one could ever wear it again in baseball. His number was 42, I think.
Yeah.
And but that's about what I remember about him. It was, he had a bat. I get a kick out of this. Louisville Sluggers bats. We're out of town. I grew up in Louisville. The Hillary and Bradley made all the major league bats. Nowadays they got Mizuno bats and all kinds of bats, Adirondack. But his bat always had a skinny handle on it. They would break easy. You know, well, maybe I'm sorry, I take it back. His bat was thick handle. Jackie Robinson bats had thick handles on it. And they wouldn't break easy. That's what it was, I think.
Yeah.
Sorry to screw that up. But
Anyway. One of my, we're getting close to the end here, but like, he said he had thick handles.
his bat had
Probably
thick handles,
break
Jackie
his
Robinson
bat.
bats. Yeah, they were thick handles.
Okay, and like, were black people allowed to like go to games when he was playing? Like it was a mixed crowd.
They allowed him to go, yeah, because they wanted the money, of course.
Yeah.
And this only lasted perhaps for maybe 7 or 8 years. Cleveland Indians, like I said earlier, in '48, they took him for, I think his name was Monty Irvin, Irvin. He became the first black player in the American League. And it didn't matter in those days. Jewish ball players were picked on also.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a pretty tough time. But you know, being in New York was a little easier. Had that been in Atlanta, which they didn't have a major league team in those days, it would have been a lot harder down in the South, I'm sure. But it was bad enough, especially in St. Louis for some reason. They picked on him more than any other team, the Cardinals. They had a bunch of racists on there, I guess.
Yeah, well, a city like Philadelphia, I'm sure would have been a lot appreciated because they're just for their country. And what
Yeah,
the rules
right.
are.
Right, yeah.
And yeah, I mean, alright, this is the last question
All right.
that I have written on here, and like, who were the Leo DeRocher of the manager of
The Dodgers?
the Dodgers?
Yes.
Yeah, did he like doubt him at all? Like, did he saw him as a good player? Right
No,
away?
he didn't. I think Branch Rickey got together with Leo DeRocher and said, we're bringing this fellow Robinson up,
Okay.
and he's a good athlete, he's gonna help you win. And so, Leo DeRocher, the teammates didn't want to play. Pee-wee Reese supported him more than anybody. He's from Louisville,
Yeah.
which is Southern. And when Pee-wee Reese tried to talk to him and some of the other ones and said, the guy's a great guy. When they finally realized what a good guy he was, and how, what a good player he was, they accepted him. Like I said, Leo DeRocher said, I'll tell you what, he's gonna make money for us. If you guys don't need any money, then I'll tell you what, I'll get rid of all of you. I'll get a whole bunch of new players. So they accepted him,
Okay.
you know.
Alright,
And he supported him.
Alright, well, that's my last question. Thank you for your time.
Oh, I think when we do Muhammad Ali too, we like that one better.
I know, but I can only do one.
Oh, you one, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We think that's pretty good, or what?
Alright.
Now, do you have to